Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. My name is Candace Gish, and I'm the host of this particular program. Well, thank you to each and every one of you that has tuned in today. We have a great show for you. We have an amazing, brand new diva that we're going to be welcoming to our family. Her name is Michaela Sullivan, and I'm really excited to have her. She's got this really great global mission that I think each and every one of you wants to hear about today. And it's quite, I don't even know how to describe it. It's quite amazing. And so we're going to get started and have her share her story today. For any of you that have just tuned in for the very first time, the Divas That Care Network has been going now for 9 years. We have 11 hosts on our program, and I hope that you're able to tune into their amazing shows at divasthatcare.com. So let's get started. Michaela, welcome to the show. I am just beyond excited to have you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Candace. I'm excited to be here.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of share my story and what got me started, what led me to social entrepreneurship and what I'm doing today. So I feel like my story really started when I was younger. I was about 10 years old when I had one of my first international trips to a developing country. So I went with my grandparents, and we had traveled over the border to Mexico, and we were visiting a rural community there. And as a young person, I think I didn't quite realize how different parts of the world are based on the location that you're at. And so for me, it was seeing something completely new and different. And it was seeing how there are different levels of income, there are different living standards, and understanding that, not everyone's as fortunate as I am to live in a very well-structured house and have all of their basic needs and necessities met. And so I think that's really when I started thinking and realizing that, there's a lot of injustices in the world, and a lot of people don't have the same good fortune that I do just because of the location that they're born in, and the environment and the community that they grow up in. And so I think it made me realize that, growing up in Midwest America and growing up in Ames, Iowa, I was very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities that many people don't have. And so that really got me starting to kind of question and understand, and really dig into why are these inequalities in the world going on? Like, why does not everyone have enough food to put on their plates at night? Why does not everyone have enough access to clean and safe drinking water? And why can't every student go to school and get the education they need to be successful in the world? And so I think that kind of led me down my path towards, really trying to understand this global ecosystem, really trying to give back, going on different mission trips, and really trying to understand where do these inequalities arise from and why are there these disparities around the world. And so it was kind of all of that led me to the Global Resource Systems program at Iowa State University. And it was there that I was able to connect up with a group of other students who had a lot of these same kind of a lot of these same questions that I was facing and had a lot of these same interests. And so all of us kind of put our heads together, and we had been told about this global business plan competition that was focused on, how do we feed our growing population? And so all of us had done international travel. We'd all seen some of the same issues and inequalities around food security, around livelihoods, around income generation. And we felt like it was something that needed to be addressed. And it was something that we had the resources and at least kind of the expertise around us in this university environment that we could start putting our heads together and start thinking of, can we come up with a solution? Is there something that we can do to address this problem? And, being young college students, I think we were probably a little bit more naive and a little bit more go-getting than some of the experts we were talking to at the university. But I think that really played to our fortune and our strong suit because it led us to kind of starting a company and led us to where KinoSol is at today. And so throughout this process, we had designed a solar food dehydrator. We felt like it was really important to focus on food that was already being produced but not necessarily ending up on the consumer's plate or ending up and being able to support families and livelihoods around the world. And so we felt like dehydration was a really great option, especially for fruits and vegetables that have a very short shelf life. So if you can dry food, you can store it for up to 6 months later, and you can have access to it in months where, it might not be in season or months when it's very expensive to buy it at the local market or the grocery store. So we spent probably about 2 years really prototyping our dehydrator, working with a lot of organizations. We sent our dehydrator to 40 countries from South America to Africa to Asia, really trying to understand what sort of problems do smallholder farmers face. How can our technology impact them? How can we help them preserve food? How can we help them increase their annual income? And we learned a lot through that entire process. And so kind of just a brief flash forward to where we're at today. We've commercially launched our product. We're working primarily over in East Africa with smallholder farmers. We're helping them preserve food that would otherwise go wasted, increase their annual income, start their own businesses through selling the dried outputs at local markets. And one of the more recent things we started doing is really focusing in on how do we educate kind of the next generation of social entrepreneurs. So partnering with colleges and universities to take students over with us to get some of those hands-on learning opportunities that they can take back and that they can use to start their own business and start figuring out what problems are there around the world that they could address. So I guess in a nutshell, that's a little bit about KinoSol and kind of my story and how I got started.
Well, I love it, and I think it's so inspirational. And, I love that when you guys started in college and university, I just love it because I believe that too. You have no limits. You don't see that there is no limits. You think that there's possibilities everywhere. And I love young entrepreneurs because of that. They believe that,
Exactly.
and it's so true. And I always think that more people need to feel that way, even if you're in your 40s and your 50s. Realize that there's no limits. It's your desire to help others, to make the world a better place, that these ideas come to life. And, thank you so much for what you're doing because it is really impacting so many people's lives right now.
Yeah, that's something we're really focused on is we feel like what we need to be doing has to have a meaningful impact. Otherwise, it's not really worth doing.
So in regards to talking to other colleges and students in them, do you do like an internship? Is that what you're doing? And you're taking these kids overseas?
So it's not quite an internship. I would say it'd be more like a short-term study abroad. So we work with the colleges and universities that are offering, social entrepreneurship or agriculture entrepreneurship, and we provide kind of that hands-on learning experience in country. So we're taking students over there with us. We're teaching them how do you interview people and understand the challenges that they face in their local communities. How do you identify what sort of problems or what sort of solutions could be implemented? We have them, do some work with our partners, work with us, help us implement the technology, and then help us do some impact assessments and understand what sort of impact does this technology have, and is it having a meaningful impact on the communities and the families that we're working with.
Oh, I think that's absolutely brilliant. And currently you're working in Uganda, is that correct?
So that's our primary location. So we split our time between the U.S. and Uganda.
Excellent. And you've got a lot of stuff happening there. And when is your next trip down to Uganda?
Yeah, so we'll actually be there in November.
Do you stay there is it like a few weeks there, or do you spend quite a bit of time then?
Yeah, so we'll be there for about 3 weeks, and then we'll be back again in January. So we're probably over there about 4 to 5 times a year for, a couple of weeks at a time.
Well, that's excellent. So go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and then we have a couple of local partners that we work with pretty closely, and so they're kind of there on the ground whenever we're not there.
I love it. Are you going to be expanding to other parts throughout Africa or any other parts of the world that you're wanting to really establish those spots?
Definitely. So we're looking to continue to expand. We feel like if you're really focused on, having a sustainable impact, you can't keep doing the same work in the same locations over and over, because then that means something's not working. If you have to continually keep going back. So what we try to do is, each time we go over there, we're working in a different community, and then maybe we go back and we visit one of the communities we previously worked in just to do a follow-up, just kind of check in and see how things are going. And continue to maintain those community relationships. So we've done a little bit of work kind of in Tanzania, so I think that might be the next place we look to really expand out into, but then, not necessarily having any sort of closed off plan to any other location. If we find out, Ecuador is the next great place for us to really start getting our teeth into it and putting our feet on the ground, then that's where we would look to go. So we're pretty open to, kind of figuring out what that next trajectory is. what we found is it really comes down to the local partners that we're working with and the relationships that we build with the communities on the ground.
Oh, I love it. How can our listeners help you? If there's some of our listeners out there that are really like, okay, this young, amazing woman has got a lot of ideas and she's doing a lot of great things, how could they help you out?
Yeah, I think kind of from a big picture perspective, I think people starting to think a little bit more about being food conscious, maybe not throwing out those fruits and vegetables at the end of the week, but trying to figure out how can I repurpose them. I think a lot of people don't realize that food waste has such a big impact. There's a lot of negative consequences, both environmentally, economically, and socially. And so just being aware that, what you're doing does have an impact on people around the globe. And then I think kind of for maybe the younger listeners out there, or even, the older listeners, don't feel like there's something that's holding you back. I think, like you were saying, Candace, I think people oftentimes set their own limitations. There's no reason other people can't go out there and start addressing some of these global problems. We're just one small company that's trying to address global food waste and food insecurity, but we know we're not going to be able to do it on our own. It's going to take kind of the whole village mindset and a lot of people working on addressing this problem to really see a dramatic impact. So I think those would be the two big things. If anyone is interested, you can always go to our website, and we've got our dehydrators for sale. They do kind of work across the globe, so you can always purchase any of our products, and part of the profits from the product sales go to support our in-country work, so that's always an option if you feel like that's something you're inclined to do.
Oh, I love it. So can I ask you, can you tell us a little about your hydrators, your dehydrators?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we designed the dehydrators as a tool that could be used to preserve food that would otherwise go to waste. So we were really focused on fruits and vegetables just because they're so high in micronutrients and they tend to be some of the more perishable items that you would find. So the dehydrator is completely natural. So there's no greenhouse gas emissions or anything. It doesn't use electricity. It doesn't use solar panels. So it's using just the natural energy of the sun, allowing you to dry kind of whatever you're hoping to dry. So what you would do is you would slice up your fruits or vegetables, whether it be, apples, bananas, tomatoes, you can even do kale chips. And you would set them in the dehydrator and then set the dehydrator out in the sun. And it typically takes about a day for everything to be dried. So, you put it out before you go to work in the morning, and then you come home at the evening, and you've got a nice snack that you can enjoy up to a couple months post drying it.
Oh, I love that. Can I ask you a question, though? For any of us that live in an area that we don't necessarily have a lot of sun, especially in the wintertime, or, how can this work in our homes, or does this have to be outside?
It does have to be outside. We just spent this past summer doing some re-engineering. So it's now good to work in slightly cooler climates. So, we set it up here in Iowa all the time. So at least in the summertime. So I would say kind of from like your spring to your fall temperature-wise, you'd be able to use it. But no, it does not work in the winter. It might be something, down the road we figure out how can we make it so that it could be used inside. But not quite at the moment yet.
Okay. So for any of the Canadians that are listening, you can only use it for a certain period of time. And our summer has been very wet and cold, so maybe not this year.
Maybe not this year, but, when you do have that nice warm weather, think of it as an option for something you can do.
Exactly. But you know what? I love this because this product could be used where your goal is throughout the African area, and they've got a lot of sun and this would help preserve their food. And I just love that idea because they don't have to worry about the power. There's no electricity involved. This is solar. And I love that it's solar food. And that's just brilliant.
Yeah, that was one of the main constraints that we had is, we're sending these kind of halfway across the world. They're going to be used in some of these remote locations where electricity often isn't reliable. And, if it has pretty small complex parts with a solar panel, if something breaks, it might not be able to be used. So we were trying to think of, how could we make this as low tech as possible so that it functions in the most amount of places possible.
That's wonderful. So what is next for you? I know that you're wanting to expand. you're wanting to do so much. But tell our listeners what's kind of in the next steps for you for this amazing company.
Yeah, so right now we're focused on expanding out our partnerships with universities. So really trying to kind of get more people on board. We feel like the more people we can take over to Uganda and kind of educate about food waste, educate about social entrepreneurship, kind of that leads us to be able to continue expand and increasing the amount of impact and the amount of effort that we're putting towards this big lofty goal that we set for ourselves of addressing global food waste. And so I think, that's definitely kind of in the pipeline in the next 2 years, and then expanding out to really addressing different countries, working in different locations with different communities. We've kind of set the goal for ourselves of, in the next 5 years or so, we'd love to be able to hit the target of impacting 1 million people and helping improve their livelihoods, whether it be through using the dehydrator, whether it be through attending a training, whether it be through participating on our trips. We feel like, if we can hit that number, we're feeling like we're really starting to make a dent in some of this big global problem.
Do you do any training online? For any of the listeners that are not in your area, would this be something do you do workshops online that they can attend?
We haven't yet, and I'm not sure if that's quite in the pipeline, but, if we had a lot of people who were interested in it, it's something we could probably look at and potentially figure out.
Perfect. And how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so we're pretty active on all of the social media channels. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can also find us on our website. It's just getkinosol.com. So there's quite a bit of information. All of our contact information is on there too. So feel free to reach out if you've ever got a question or just want to chat or hear more kind of about how you can play your part in reducing food waste.
Oh, I love this. You're doing such a great job. Okay. Now my big question for you today is how can you leave our listeners with tips and tools on social entrepreneurship, on making the world a better place? Anything you'd love to leave with us today?
Yeah, I would say my biggest thing is just, a lot of people I think don't do something because they feel like one person can't really make a difference. And I would actually challenge that and say, even though you are just one person, you can make a huge impact. And so I think don't let that stand in the way of feeling like you're the only one who's interested in this, or you're not technically ready enough, or you don't have enough experience, or you don't have enough learning degrees. I think that's all just you're putting hurdles in your way that are unnecessary. You're preventing yourself from getting out there and doing something. And so I think really just knowing that you as a single individual can have a dramatic impact and you can make a difference in the world, and just remember that and don't let other things get in your way.
Thank you so much. Michaela, that was brilliant. And you know what? I want to thank you so much for being my amazing guest today. I hope that you come back on the program again and chat more about this, because I think this is what you're doing right now is what the world needs. And we love social entrepreneurship, and we want to get the word out there as much as possible and about your company. So to all of our listeners, we will be posting all of her links around our social media and be posting this show right away here. So again, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Candace. It was great getting to share our story.
Well, you have a great story, and I can't wait to hear what's going to be transpiring in your journey, because I know it's not done. I know that you've got a lot to do, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to all of our amazing listeners. It's because of you that we've continued to do our program now for 9 years. And you are always so, you've inspired myself and inspired all of our hosts. And it's because of you. You take our shows and you share them with all your friends and family. And we love that, because what we want to do is we want to connect and with as many people as we can. And these entrepreneurs and these amazing divas that come onto our program, they want to share with you. They want to connect with you. And I hope that you're able to connect here with this amazing young diva, and you are able to engage with her and, get the word out there so that their program can be known all over the world too. So if you have any questions about any of our divas, if you want to listen to any of their programs, please check our website out at divasthatcare.com. And until next time, to all of you, I hope that you all have a great day and you do something kind for somebody. Until next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.